If you think that the gay community is small and catty, the drag community is smaller and cattier. Don't get me started on Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is really, oh, this is a real blow in my system because like Dave Chappelle is someone that I've always looked up to. I am a Black, queer, non-binary person with a massive billboard on Sunset Boulevard. If you would have told my ancestors one day this will happen, they'd be like, that's not a thing.
She is the host of HBO's first unscripted hit series, We're Here, which just got renewed for a second season. She is nominated for a Critics' Choice Real TV Award. She has a brand new comedy special called Bob the Drag Queen, live at Caroline's. She is on MTV's Drag My Dad, and she also has a podcast called Sibling Rivalry. Meet the man who has found 15 more hours in a day, Bob the Drag Queen, everybody.
I'm also the host of VH1's The Pit Stop as well.
You know what, bitch? Don't come here with all your credentials, okay? Because you're putting me to shame.
I am working. Sometimes I feel like me and Dr. Fauci are the two hardest working people in America.
You guys might be. You guys seriously might be. Bob, this all hit at one time. Are you soaking this all in?
You know, I feel like there was a change in my career about 2 years ago now. I did a play in Berkeley at the Berkeley Repertory Theater in Berkeley, California. And then something around the time of doing that play, things just kind of like took off for me. It was really wild. I took a 6-month break from doing drag to do Angels in America. And then when I got back, it was like, I guess that 6 months, folks are like, we missed the drag.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
I just don't know where the switch went, where drag was kind of sort of this very niche art form that we enjoyed on Sundays or at a Wednesday drag queen bingo, to going mainstream and becoming something bigger than anyone expected. When do you feel that turn was?
Oh, when RuPaul's Drag Race came on TV. I mean, season 1 was a huge switch in drag. I don't think anyone can argue that. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. When you saw that first season, when you heard about that first season, did you try to get on?
No, I wasn't a drag queen then. I was just sitting in my apartment in Long Island City in Queens. And I had back in the day when people had TiVo, I was looking for shows to record on my TiVo. And then I was like, RuPaul has a show? What? I got to record this. Then I started recording it. And then immediately was like, this is the best show on TV. And I felt like I was in on this really intense secret. I would go in at work and be like, have y'all been watching RuPaul's Drag Race? And folks would be like, what? And I'd be like, girl, you have to start watching the show. And then I started doing drag during the first season.
So you went from watching the show to winning the show. How many years later?
I won the 8th season, so 8 years later.
And then when did you know that combining your comedy and your drag together was going to get you to that next level? Because watching you on season 8, that's what got you the furthest. And that's why a lot of queens can't really touch you, because you have that comedy background that not a lot of people have.
Well, my first gig ever was a stand-up gig. Like my first time ever performing in drag in nightlife was at a stand-up comedy club. Because
Wow.
I had been writing comedy for quite some time, and I really wanted to be able to do stand-up, but I just never found the time or the courage or the energy. But then one day I was like, you know, I'm gonna really make it difficult for myself. My first time in drag will also be my first time
doing comedy,
stand-up. Yeah. And I just begged everyone who worked at my restaurant to come see me do some stand-up. And they all thought it was funny from work. They were like, oh, wow, Caldwell's really funny, so we should probably go see him do some stand-up.
Damn, that's crazy. Yeah. I kind of got to be honest. I went into a deep dive into the drag community because I was so interested to see how, because I know in the gay community, it's really small and it's super catty. It's really small, it's super catty, and it can be very stressful. So to take that gay community and shrink it again into this gay meets showgirls with artists, y'all can get crazy in there.
Well, listen, if you think that the gay community is small and catty, the drag community is smaller and cattier. It is like drag queens are the worst monsters, truly
It's like
monsters.
no, it's like Gina Gershon in Showgirls. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
And then on top of that, an even smaller community is the drag race community. So like drag is a sorority, and then drag race is an elite sorority, and then then there's like the elite sororities within the elite.
It's just so nuts to me that this is all happening and you are hosting HBO, one of the most premier premium networks alive. You have a 9-story billboard on Sunset. Is that still surreal to you to turn on
But
that TV and see you standing there hosting the show?
for me, success doesn't feel weird; it feels right. When I wasn't on TV, I was like, this is the weird part. You know, when I auditioned for RuPaul's Drag Race, I said, I'm going to get on RuPaul's Drag Race, and I'm going to win it, and it won't be the most impressive thing I've ever done.
Oh, wow. You
And,
knew
and I
that.
still feel that way. Yeah, and I still feel that way about being on We're Here. Someone's like, oh my God, you have a show on HBO. Like, that's it. And I'm like, that's not it. That's not it at all.
There's
Like, I
more.
intend to do a lot more impressive things than that.
Damn. What are you hoping that you get to tackle on season 2?
So if you all watched, then you'll know that episode 6, we had to leave Spartanburg. I would love to be able to go back to Spartan because the lockdown happened during an episode. So I
Oh,
would love
wow.
to be able to go back to Spartanburg, North Carolina, and like finish what we started there. And I want to go to like my hometown or Shangela's hometown, Eureka's hometown.
Oh, wow. You think George is ready?
I mean, if Spartanburg, North Carolina's ready, then maybe Columbus, Georgia's ready. You know what I mean?
It's so interesting because even as a gay person, I had to educate myself on what it means to be non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
And I now fight with people who say, oh, I don't understand it. And I'm like, but you need to understand it. You need to make
Yeah, for
yourself
sure.
understand it. And I'm gonna use this as a teachable moment right now for people who listen to this. When you hear people say that they're gender non-binary, Bob, please tell them what it means.
Well, that basically means you don't identify as a man, you don't identify as a woman. You acknowledge that gender is a spectrum and you're somewhere in the middle of it. And I also acknowledge that my non-binariness, once I was able to tap into it because of drag and because of, blurring the gender line in my work life and then it bleeding into my day-to-day life and then me realizing that I have been pushed into this social construct of what it means to be a man or to be assigned male at birth. And I was doing things simply because of the rules, not because I
Yes.
wanted to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like
And it's
this
pressure.
is also the idea that we have a lot of these ideas put into our heads without our consent. This goes from everything to, which is why I got into trouble. Oh, I'm probably about to light your podcast up. I got into trouble a couple of years ago for saying all white people are racist. Everyone got really mad at me for saying that. And when I say that, what I'm saying is, when you are white in America, you have racist ideologies put in your head, whether you consented to them or not. So they're already in there. So just because you don't call me the N-word, if you see a bunch of black guys walking towards you and you cross the street, that's racist.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were going to rob you or not doesn't change whether or not it was racist. And if you cross the street, or if you look at a bunch of black guys and you get nervous, even if you don't cross the street, that's still racist because you have racism baked into your head. You saw a group of people, you took their race, and you decided in that moment that they were something without any knowledge other than the color of their skin.
But do you find in this movement, in this year, that you're finding that more people are willing to acknowledge those behaviors and that way of thinking and start to change them?
Yes. I said this on Billboard. Billboard does this pride series where they get a bunch of drag queens together and talk politics. And I said this probably 3 years ago, and people were mad. I mean,
Burnt.
how dare you? I was my son's neighbor's dog's owner is black. How could I be racist? But now people are like, you know what? Let me actually take a step back and realize what I just said, or the things that I do in my day-to-day life, or how I conduct myself, and that was racist. And now, but people, no one wants to admit it because racism is ignorance and no one wants to admit they're ignorant. But the only way to gain knowledge is to acknowledge that you are lacking it.
100%. And I'm going to double down on that because I'm going to just say this. And I think that it's fair to say, and for everybody out there listening, I also think there are Black people who are racist as well, which is why we aren't acknowledging that trans lives are being affected by what's going on. So I'm not just talking about, I don't think we're just talking about white people here. I think that as the Black community, we have an issue with trans lives and we need to abolish that ASAP.
Well, I do think that the issue with trans lives, especially in the Black community, doesn't necessarily lie within racism, but it does lie within prejudice and misogyny, specifically trans misogyny. And this is not just something for just the trans people to address or just the queer people to address. Like, we need in this world cisgendered, straight Black men to stand up and say trans lives matter. We need Lil Wayne, we need Jay-Z, we need Wiz Khalifa, we need Waka Flocka Flame.
Where you at?
And not just like Black academics like Barack Obama and Angela Davis. We need like Black,
the people who influence,
cisgender Black men that are influencing. We need them to be like, we need comedians like what's his
Dave
name?
Chappelle,
who won the Oscar for Ray. Jamie Foxx. And don't even get me started. Don't get me started on Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is really, this is a real blow in my system because like Dave Chappelle is someone that I've always looked up to, and his comedy is so. Lately, his comedy has been really doubling down on this idea that trans people are a joke, or that trans existence is funny, or that trans people just living their lives is funny to him. And then when Dave Chappelle, who's one of the most respected Black people in comedy and in entertainment, goes on TV, or when Netflix gives him money to say, I can't stop laughing at trans people, they're just so funny, then it validates that idea for other people, and then other people double down and agree with him. When instead he could use his voice to say trans people are valid, and he could also still be funny within context of these things. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to punch down to, like, you're Dave Chappelle. All of your content leading up to this year, you didn't have any trans misogynistic jokes in any of that stuff, and it was still successful. So why you don't need that stuff? But also, you could use your voice to stand up for those people. You could use your voice to point out discrepancies in the community against trans people, specifically trans women, specifically Black trans women. Yeah. But instead, just to say they're funny and I can't stop laughing.
Yes, I agree with you. If you're going to put me down and use me as the punchline of a joke, at least validate my existence and let people know that I am here and I'm human.
Yeah. So
that part.
But that's the Black community, we still have a lot of work to do. But that's also the gays. Don't even start on the queer community.
We don't even have enough time to talk about the gays. Okay. We don't even that's a whole nother special, a JTS special. Yeah. With everything. I don't know. It's just so nuts and it's so crazy, like, to be in this time and see everyone begin this conversation that I feel like it's embarrassing that it took 2020 and it took so many lives to have people finally start this conversation. But on the other hand, I'm happy that we're doing it now and I don't have to do it in 10 years with my kids. You know what I mean?
There is this slogan that's been going around the Black community, which I have been really absorbing, which is, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Have you heard this?
I have, actually.
Think about this. I am a Black, queer, non-binary person with a massive billboard on Sunset Boulevard. If you would have told my ancestors, one day this will happen, they'd be like, that's not a thing. We can't even walk through the front door.
Harriet would be like, sure.
Exactly. Sure, Jan.
Sure, Jan. Yeah. Yeah. Keep on dreaming, Jan.
I've been really relishing in that a lot lately.
100%. And I'm also relishing in the idea that I get to walk down the street and be a Black man, have a job, be in love with someone, show affection with someone of the same sex and not be arrested, which A lot of people who are just a few skedaddles older than us who are still alive didn't have that same type of freedom. And I often say a lot of times the people who give me the most hate that I know, from where I'm from, are the people who are stuck in marriages with women and they didn't have the freedom to be themselves. And now they're mad at me.
It took me a while to realize this, but a lot of times when people are bullying you or being mean to you or being nasty to you, they're really not doing it to you. It is a reflection of themselves, and they are being down on something in themselves that they are afraid of or that they look down.
Yes. It's just, I don't know. I wish I would have known that though. And you're right. It's people's insecurities. It's them being down on themselves. But I wish I would have known that when I was 10 or when I was 14.
But that wouldn't have helped you. It would have helped you, but like you have to. It's one of those things. It's like, I know we've heard this before, but it's like it's in the Wizard of Oz. I could have told you when you got here, but you wouldn't have believed me. You had to experience it all yourself. You had to experience it all yourself. Yeah.
Did I?
I mean, I know I did. Not for everyone, but I know I did.
Maybe I did have to go through it. Maybe I did have to understand what it meant, and I had to feel the flame and the fire. You're right. If I wouldn't have went through the fire, I would have not been here.
But I also want to tell people too, like we feel this like need in our lives to justify our trauma. Like because I'm not religious, I'm not one of those folks who believes everything happens for a reason, because sometimes bad things just happen and it's not to serve some greater purpose. Someone says like you had to be abused, you had to be hurt, you had to be bullied in order for this and this and this. I don't believe that everything that happens to you has to have been to serve some greater purpose. Sometimes things just happen to people. Sometimes because then if you think that you being abused has to then somehow turn into something else, and it doesn't turn into that, then you think that it's something you've done wrong. So I just want to dispel that rumor to anyone here listening who feels like you have to turn your trauma into some like a movie or a poem or a book or a speaking engagement.
It doesn't have to happen.
Sometimes you can still work through it without some end product being this thing.
100%. But I also think, when you go through something like that, it might not happen for a reason, but there is a lesson to be learned through that.
I believe that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. If anything, the outcome should be that better next time than to leave your back against this person, or to let your guard down, around people, or to not know that, certain things exist in the world and you need to watch out for yourself. I don't think there's the end of the rainbow for every situation or trauma, but I do think there is a learning curve for everything. I think that you have to learn something from something.
You can learn from a trip to the mailbox. There's something to learn from all situations in life, and then obviously some of them carry much greater impacts.
Oh my God, Bob, where can I find this special?
If you all go to iTunes, type in Bob the Drag Queen Live at Caroline's, or if you go to my website, it's all there, bobthedragqueen.com. You can find anything that has anything to do with Bob the Drag Queen. That's bobthedragqueen.com.
I just want to let you know that like I am low-key jealous and envious of what you're doing right now, but I'm also high-key cheering you on because I love Shangela. I love you. And like, I just love when my Black kings and queens really rise up, because I know how much harder you have to work in order to get that recognition. I know how extra you got to be to make sure you are seen and heard in this industry. So truly, I am impressed. Every time I turn on that show, I truly believe that you are there for a reason, and you are absolutely correct. This is not going to be the biggest thing you're going to do. Bob is it. Now don't get caught up in no entanglements, Bob.
No, I'm good.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right, you guys, to listen to this whole interview, go to wherever you listen to podcasts, click on Just a Sip and sip this tea. Like what you saw? Hit subscribe. You don't want to miss any new episodes of Just a Sip, and you can catch up on any past episodes. The tea was hot, I'm telling you.